Hey guys, Hal here coming at you with another movie review. Today we're going to be doing the movie The Lighthouse, which was written and directed by Robert Eggers, starring Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. But before we continue, something don't feel right. Oh, there we are, that's better. As The Lighthouse is shot in black and white, I thought I'd do the review in black and white as well. And before anyone says anything, no, this is not a Nazi hat, but it was the best one I could get that looked like one of the hats from The Lighthouse. Alright, so The Lighthouse is about two lighthouse keepers that are trying to keep their sanity while living on a remote island in the 1890s. So I've been a big fan of Robert Eggers ever since I watched his 2015 film, The Witch. And then I followed on by watching The Northman as well and really enjoyed that also. But it's taken me quite a while then to get my hands on The Lighthouse to actually watch it. I'd heard good things about it. I heard it was this psychological horror. So really weren't sure what I was going to get when I went into it. And I wasn't quite sure how I felt about it when it finally finished. So starting with the positives to the film, the cinematography is absolutely fantastic. You can tell straight away from the first shot that it's going to be a masterpiece in filmmaking by Robert Eggers. As soon as Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe arrive at this isolated island, just the shot of it straight away, all in black and white, you just know it's going to be a real masterpiece, and it sure is. Now, there's certainly some strange shots throughout this film, but take nothing away from the actual cinematography itself, because even the real weird shots that are in it are just captured perfectly. Once they're finally in their setting, in their little house that's literally in darkness, all they've got where they're sat at their dinner table is just this light in the center of the table, and the darkness just swallows around them. There's this horrible, like, real fear of impending doom. And again, it's just the way that Robert Eggers captures these moments, and I could just tell straight away when they're sharing their very first meal that this is going to go dark and probably very quickly. It's a very claustrophobic film. You've just got the two actors on this isolated island and in this little house, and they don't get on with each other very well, to be honest. They are, you know, they're a bit yin and yang. One of them likes to drink, the other one doesn't. The other one's farting and just being the worst kind of roommate you can possibly imagine. And very bossy as well. He's always getting Robert Pattinson's character to do all the hard work whilst he just does the night shifts and looks after the light. But there's also something very mysterious about this light, and he will not let Robert Pattinson's character, you know, go up and tend to it. Like he's literally willing to fight to stop him from doing so. So this basic setting I really quite enjoyed. I loved not knowing what was going to be round the corner and what was happening, who was going to blow their top first. So when they finally do actually butt heads and start kicking off with one another, the performances are just incredible. I mean, Oscar worthy. Like Willem Dafoe, he definitely steals the show, but Robert Pattinson does manage to keep up. Like I didn't see Robert Pattinson in that kind of light, not in that kind of acting anyway. But Willem Dafoe, he stands up and does these monologues when Robert Pattinson says that he's fed up of eating his horrible food, and Willem Dafoe looks heartbroken. Like it's quite a funny moment because he's told that, you know, he doesn't like his food anymore, and he wishes he could have steak. And Willem Dafoe's like, "You like my lobster though, don't you?" Like, I'm rubbish at the accent, but you know, he says, you like my lobster though, don't you? And then when he finally realises that actually Robert Pattinson doesn't enjoy his meals at all, he stands up and gives off this very long monologue where he pretty much dooms Robert Pattinson to death and hopes that his soul doesn't rest, and just goes in real hard on him. It's really quite funny. And Robert Pattinson then just eventually goes, "All right, have it your way. I like your lobster." It's like it is really quite funny. In these like real dark performances and dark setting, there are some very funny moments, and as I just mentioned then, Willem Dafoe, he says some really quite funny things, and so does Robert Pattinson. There's a part where he's actually got to take out pretty much 2 buckets of shit, and he goes to the top of the cliff to throw it away, and it ends up just blowing back in his face, and there's just a real quick cut where he just goes, ah! And then it cuts out. It's just absolutely brilliant. So like there are some real laugh out moments in this, even though it is meant to be like a psychological horror. And although it is very psychological, the horror part, I weren't so sure. You know, it's some weird stuff, but some very funny moments as well, which was definitely a plus. And my final positive, though, for the whole film is actually what has come after you finish watching the film, and that's the discussions that I've had with my mates over it. I've wanted to talk about it non-stop, in all honesty, because it is so down to interpretation of what's actually happening. Because although the plot sounds pretty straightforward, it's nothing but. It is all over the place. I mean, there is so many scenes that you just go, like, what? And that's kind of how I felt as soon as the film finished as well. I genuinely was like, what have I just watched? Like, so, but I've loved speaking about it. Since it's over, there's a part of me that wants to go and pop it back, back on again, because, enjoyed discussing it and hearing what other people think about it. What do they make of it? And it's nice to hear other people's perspectives. And I've been watching other people's reviews online and watching, like endings explained. And I know that I think Robert Eggers has actually come out and said that it's like loosely based on like Greek mythology with Prometheus and all that kind of stuff, which I'm not too fussed about reading into, but I certainly like just hearing what other people have to say. Like, there's a part of me that just thinks, because they start drinking so much, I was like, are they just pissheads? I think, you can go all deep and everything like that, but are they just pissheads? And one of them likes staring at the light, like, and just, can it be just as straightforward as that? Like, because there is just so many different things and different ways you can take this film, but I like to kind of simplify it sometimes, because they just both start drinking, and I'm just like, well, they're acting like pissheads. So yeah. So moving on to the mixed elements of the film, I would say it's the dialogue. Now, Robert Eggers is known for using quite old school dialogue and making it very authentic to the time that it's set in, and he did it with The Witch, and that took a little while for me to get used to, but I eventually have gotten used to it, and I've watched it a few times since. But this was the same. Actually, it was a bit of a struggle at times. I thought I might have to stick on the subtitles, because I really did find it quite hard to understand them sometimes. It wasn't all the time, but sometimes I was a bit like, oh, this is a bit of a struggle. I might need to stick the subtitles on just to clarify exactly what they're saying. It wasn't, as I say, all the time, but just a little bit. So going into the negatives, the major one is, once the film ended and the credits started rolling, I really wasn't even sure that I'd liked what I'd seen. And I'm not sure if that's what the film's intended to do, but I really had no idea. Like, there were so many visions throughout this film that I found it very tough to piece some of them together. And as I say, it's only since discussing it with others, which I've enjoyed doing, that I've kind of been able to piece a few bits together. But when the film actually finished, no, I did have a genuine feeling of, I don't understand what all the fuss is about, because I watched it all the way through. I'm not necessarily saying that the film dragged or anything like that, but I did wander off on a few moments, because there was visions of like tentacles and there was just so many things, of mermaids, and I just couldn't piece some of it together. But it's upon like further discussion, I can now see what it was aiming for. I mean, not fully, but yeah, I get it a little bit more. But when it finished, I didn't feel particularly positive about the film, really. So it's because of those discussions that I've been able to pick so many positives out for it. I actually am really looking forward to watching it again, because upon further conversation, I'm sure I will see now what it all means a little bit more. So yeah, that's pretty much the negatives rounded up. I'm sure if I didn't discuss it with all my friends, that this whole review would have been a lot of negatives, really. Apart from performances, take nothing away from that, or the cinematography. I get that, but yeah, story-wise, I was very much taken aback when it finished originally. So my overall thoughts are: very good performances, excellent cinematography and sound. The story, although very vague and you make of it what you wish, doesn't totally spoil the experience. I would suggest that you watch this just so that when it finishes, you can discuss it with your friends and watch videos like this on YouTube and see what others think, because I think that's the best thing it's got going for it, is the conversations that it's going to bring going forward. So that's been my review on The Lighthouse. Sorry if all the black and whites actually really put you off, but I thought I like going for the theme, so why not? So if you enjoyed this video, please support the channel by subscribing, liking, putting your comments in the comment section below, hitting that notification bell, because when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious